Episode 228 of the TV Dudes podcast, recorded March 28th, 2019. Strange Worlds. Hey guys, we're back.
All right.
It's funny because for the listeners, it's been less than a week. For us, it's been a while.
It's actually been a minute.
The new schedule is very interesting. We're recording a little bit. How are you liking it, Les?
On the one hand, I'm liking it. It is still working the way we thought it would. It's freeing up a little bit easier in our personal life schedules.
Yeah.
But it is really weird, especially if I miss an episode. I've actually missed 2 episodes. And so, next thing I know, it's like a month later, and like, hey guys, did we ever talk about? Oh yeah, like a long time ago.
Yeah, it is a little weird. I've had to shift my my expectations too. Kyle, what about you? You liking this new schedule thing?
I feel really professional doing it like this because whenever you see like people talking about TV, they're always like, "Oh, I shot that like last year," and now like I see a podcast go up and it's like we recorded that like last year.
Yeah, yeah. For those who don't know, if you haven't been listening in a while, or if this is your first show, we used to do a sort of we'd come in every week, we'd record. Now we're sort of doing it every 2 or 3 weeks, recording a couple podcasts at a time, and so we're kind of spacing things out a little bit. So we might not be talking about something that came out just this week, but we've seen quite a few things. So we're going to give you a spoiler warning for everything we're watching. We're going to tell you what we're covering. And this week with me, we're the TV Dudes. I'm Randy.
I'm Les.
And I'm Kyle.
Grant is not here with us this week, but we'll carry on without him.
I almost felt obligated to say I'm Grant. It just felt right.
Yeah, the cadence is off.
How about this? And I'm Grant.
That works.
Hot takes.
All right, so we are the TV Dudes, and this week we're going to be talking about American Gods over on Starz, Season 2. We're going to talk about Now Apocalypse, the new show on Starz that's going up the same night. We're going to talk about Love, Death, and Robots, the animated anthology over on Netflix that is David Fincher and somebody else whose name I've forgotten. I don't remember who else the guy is who did that. But it was originally pitched as a heavy metal reboot, and it kind of feels like it. So, spoiler warning for all of that. If you haven't seen those, you might want to skip ahead. But we're going to start off talking about American Gods Season 2. And guys, what did you guys think about it, season 1 of American Gods? Where'd you come down?
I really liked Season 1 of American Gods, but mostly because I really liked American Gods. I loved that book, and so I really wanted the show to succeed. And where the show nailed the book for me, it knocked it out of the park. Like the Snow Dream sequence was exactly like I thought it would look. The bank heist stuff. There was a lot I loved about it. But there was also some frustrating, not to like a Preacher change-up level, but there was some stuff that just felt weird. And I was never sure how much to chalk up to the behind-the-scenes turmoil of changing out the showrunner. And I know Brian Fuller had such a strong hand in the initial setup of the show, but then left. They wanted to get Neil Gaiman to come and do his own material, but he was in the middle of making Good Omens and wouldn't come over and showrunner it.
Right.
Then they, I believe, lost another set of showrunners.
I think that's accurate.
I got to say, going into Season 2, I had really low expectations. All of those things are like bad signs. And I realized from earlier chat, I'm in the minority on this at the table, but I'm really liking Season 2. Kyle nailed it earlier. It feels like a bit of an apology tour for how Season 1 got a little off the rails. But they start with the carousel, which is a huge moment of really in the book. That's when Odin's plan, really Wednesday's plan, really starts to kick in. That's the make or break moment where war's really declared, and they kick off Season 2 with that.
Okay, so I want to talk about that. This is one of my gripes about Starz. I like American Gods, but I'm not in love with it. Partly, I wasn't in love with the novel either, but I like it, but I'm not in love with it. And I think part of the reason is the special effects. Cheap isn't the right word. It doesn't feel cheap. It feels expensive, but it feels a little schlocky sometimes. And I have the carousel bit where they show Ian McShane flying at the screen with like a frozen expression on his face. That was goofy.
Trippy. I thought that was hilarious.
That was goofy.
Like, I saw that, and it put a huge grin on my face.
Yeah, but I don't think that was what it's supposed to do, right?
Maybe it was.
I like the mushroom tripness of their magic. Like I like the infuriating whimsy dangerous of like Magic of the Gods.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there was a.
But it is a weird look to the effects. Like,
There was, crap. What is the name? Moonshine.
Oh God, that's not Shadow Moon.
Shadow Moon. There's a part where Shadow Moon is talking to Mr. Nancy, and he's like, "Did that just happen?" And Mr. Nancy looks at him straight face and goes, "What the fuck are you talking about?" and I feel like that pays off, kind of like the humor I got from like you were saying, the acid trippiness of like starting that episode.
I do think, Kyle, where are you on this in general?
So season 1, I came into it never reading the book, being slightly familiar with the story, and very much liking the. It's got a very like Midwestern feel, like all the
for sure.
old gods and all the America of it, like really feels kind of like Wisconsin and the Midwest to me.
Oh yeah, weird diners and underground casinos and that kind of stuff.
I think that's part of what reminds me of Preacher. Is very much an Irishman's weird dream of what Texas was,
and this is Britain's America.
This is very much a British guy's mythology of what America is.
Yeah, totally.
I love Vulcan being in season 1 being. Like having adapted and now making weapons. In season 2, they have Argus, who is the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
He's now the god of surveillance. Like, that's where he's made his deal.
Yeah, that was interesting, too.
And so, like, stuff like that I thought was cool. I realized that it was a behind-the-scenes change that Anderson left. And it's not in the book, but honestly, I thought it was a cool update that media becomes new media.
That was actually really a clever way to deal with it.
New media looks at technology and goes, we're redundant. I am you. And I thought that was awesome. Like technology feeling immediately threatened.
Yeah. What did he say after that? He's like, "You didn't think I'd find you lurking in my machine or in my space?"
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think the casting on this show is phenomenal. Like everything, Orlando Jones as Anansi, Mr. Nancy.
Oh man, I want to see Nancy Boys or Anansi Boys now.
Yeah.
What has he been in before this? Because I keep looking at him like
Sprite or 7 Up.
Yeah, he was the Make 7 Up Yours guy.
Oh yeah,
he was
Roughness.
He had a brief period of like being in the movie guy. He was in that weird happiness movie that was like him and David Duchovny and Julianne Moore, I think. Some weird like, and he was the captain on that Sleepy Hollow TV show.
That's right. Season 1 of Sleepy Hollow, which was shockingly good.
Yeah,
you know who he kind of reminds me of? I know it's not him, but you remember not Murdoch? Who's the other one? The fatter one who got skinny on Daredevil.
Oh,
Foggy's friend on the police force. They kind of got a similar look. That was. Not important at all.
I love him. I love the design, the costume. The costumers on this are amazing. Like the costumes are great. I love everything Ian McShane's doing, and I love Pablo Schreiber as Mad Sweeney.
You were the tallest, unluckiest leprechaun I have ever fucking met. Oh man. I would watch, and people bitched about Mad Sweeney in the first season. There was a weird split on like a contingent that wanted like a Mad Sweeney spinoff show, and then people that were like, Pablo Schreiber's wrong for this. He's perfect.
He is.
Yeah,
oh my
he's
gosh.
Great.
Yeah.
Crispin Glover
Shut
as
up,
Mr. World. Peter Stormare as Chernobog.
I will always
so
love
much
Peter
good casting.
Stormare. He and Tilda Swinton absolutely made that Constantine movie work.
Yeah.
And I will love him forever.
I think where my issue comes is, and it's heresy. I mean, I own a comic book store for God's sake. Is that Neil Gaiman's stories don't connect with me, and I'm just like, I love all these pieces, but the puzzle isn't coming together for me. Like I don't care. It's the Mike Moody complaint about Star Trek Discovery. If it doesn't make me care, I don't care how well it's put together, and it's not clicking with me.
I loved the book. I mean, like the book just grabbed me and knocked me. Like I set it down at the end and was like, "Oh shit, that's amazing! Like that's the best synthesis of Norse mythology and weird stuff I've ever." But then my wife Lisa got about a third of the way through it and was like, "Can I just stop acting like I'm going to finish this book? I don't like it."
That's where I was too.
But it's hard. He has so much cred.
Yeah,
like the man's sci-fi nerd cred and fantasy nerd cred is impeccable, and admitting you don't like him is a bit akin to like being a giant movie nerd or like I'll love comic book movies, but I hate Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
It's hard to see, like.
Or I like comic book movies, but I wish they hadn't made the Avengers.
Yeah, like you're going to lose a couple.
Yeah.
There's going to be an argument. Some people are going to walk away.
And the weird thing is, it's not that I don't like Neil Gaiman. I've read all of Sandman. I like him.
They just don't hit you.
They don't hit me in the heart. Yeah, and none of them. He's not a god to me. He's like, okay, I'll see if I like this. I've liked 30% of what he's written.
Yeah, and I'm way closer to like a 70% of what he's written.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of the show, because I've read like zero Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the show, I feel that there is a big question, which is what the hell does Wednesday want to do with
Shadow Moon?
Shadow Moon. And it's interesting because there's so much about the show that I'm getting invested in, that I care about, and that I'm wondering about. But that's like the last thing that I care about. And I feel like that should be the main focus of the story right now, is figuring out, what's my role in this.
And weirdly, that to me is how the book. It's going to be difficult for them, or a trick for them to pull off in the show, because I feel like that's how the book worked. Though the book managed to sneak along who Wednesday really was. I mean, you didn't have to look up very much mythology to put it together.
Yeah.
But I felt like the book was a lot less overt about him clearly being Odin.
Yeah.
And like yelling it at Easter's house.
Yeah.
And
in season 1, I did not get the glass eye. I did not catch that.
So I think what they're doing, instead of trying to sneak along that, is be a little bit quiet and obfuscate the fact that Shadow's got to be the Odinson. Like,
right, yeah.
Somebody's going to hang from this tree.
Right.
And I feel like the show is going to build up, and I don't know if they. It's like trying to hide a Christmas present or something. Like, I don't think they can really hide this.
Yeah.
Because it's too central to the plot. Like, what is his deal? They've also complicated from the book. Like, they've made some changes from the book. Like, I feel like it's been a long time since I've read it, but I feel like what is happening with the side plot of Mad Sweeney and Dead Wife and like their goofy road trip show is different from the book.
Yeah. Well, I thought the wife wasn't super involved in the book, from what I hear.
Not to this degree.
And I really like that character, and I really like what she's got going with Mad Sweeney. And I know some people are real upset about it.
Yeah, but I honestly, she is the spanner in the works that is making the show have a potential to really click, I think, better than the book.
Yeah.
Because she's just this great wild card thrown in there that the gods don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
Like with the occasions that she headbutts or thumps someone through a wall.
Yes.
It's just great.
Yeah.
Are there any flies in the southern U.S. that you are not drawing to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I mention my favorite thing about this show?
Yeah.
Like I think like the Class A, top of the market, the fucking title cards to this show are so beautiful.
See, Danny hated those. Like I watched this. Like I've tried to show this show to a couple of people, and that, like, honestly, the opening music and kind of the shrill electronic neonness of it, which really it worked for me as like this grotesque, decadent totem.
Yeah,
like it really worked.
Yeah, it's like. It's not something you would want your friends seeing you listening to in your car very loud. And I feel like it really sets kind of the tone for the show. And, it's like you don't have to find something aesthetically pleasing to see it in the context and go, that's perfect. Like in episode 1 of season 2, we get to see, kind of the acid trip sequence, the gods in like their full like glory. And then at the start of episode 2, a character is killed. Spoiler, I won't say who it is. Probably don't care. But we see them out in the parking lot, and they're all dressed like lower class, Midwestern, blue collar people. And it's because nobody believes in these old gods. And they're sitting there like, we don't got any believers.
Yeah.
And they look like a bunch of crazy people in a hotel parking lot. And the metaphor for, like how we treat, things that we believe in and things that we throw away in our society and in America. I see it on there like a big
I think
punch in the face.
I think that's what it is about the opening sequence. It perfectly encapsulates what the vibe of the show is. But if you're not going to be into the show, you're not going to be into the opening credits either.
Yeah,
no,
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It does its job really well. And I think that if it speaks to you, then probably that says something about the show. And that means they're doing their job. Like, they are absolutely doing the job they should be doing. I still feel like if this was somewhere at HBO or somewhere else that had a little more nuance and not stars, that's a little more schlocky, it would be a show that might capture my attention. But it might not. I'm not sure. It might just not be for me.
Yeah. I don't think if it was on HBO, it would have the trippiness to it.
Yeah, that's true.
If anything, I just think it'd be slower.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Sam Raimi's stuff.
A little bit. It doesn't.
Yeah.
So it doesn't twist quite into like I'm remembering Sam Raimi's Quick and the Dead, which really wanted to be a serious Western, but it had way too many like
Whip pans.
Yeah, and like these super zooms.
Yeah.
Through bullet holes and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there was a silliness to it.
Yeah.
And this never quite like the face thing. Like this doesn't break me the way that Sam Raimi stuff breaks me out.
Yeah.
And starts me laughing. But I definitely get there's a hyperness to it that HBO's Prestige would keep from showing up at Stars.
That's fair. That's fair.
Stars doesn't have that tamp down,
But
I don't think.
I will totally agree with you guys. I don't think it's as good as any of like the best HBO shows that are out there, even though I'm admitting that I don't think I'd like it as much if it was on HBO.
Well, and it is probably the best show on Stars.
oh, yeah.
Pretty wide margin.
I'll give it that, yeah.
Unless, Counterpart has a claim to that, I guess.
It's not on Stars anymore.
Oh, right.
They already took it off the app.
Never mind.
So, yeah, if you want to watch something on Stars, you better watch it while it happens, because if they lose the deal with that show,
It's over.
Gone.
Yeah. So let's move over to the other Stars show this week that we watched, which is Now Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Which this show, Kyle, you not get a chance to watch this one.
Did not. I saw the trailer for it like a million times, so I got that little pop song stuck in my head.
So I watched 3 episodes of this, and Les watched 2.
I watched 2.
And this is by Greg Araki, who you recognized, Les, and I did not.
Yes. So I got done with the first episode and was like, what is with that? Like, there's a very particular style. And then Greg Araki's name popped up. And I was like, oh, this tracks. He made Doom Generation. He made Kaboom. In the late 90s, he was a name kind of alongside, like, who Harmony Korine was going to end up being, like, at a time when, like, everybody was still making movies on credit cards, and, like, Kevin Smith was new, and Tarantino was new, and there was, we were all watching Killing Zoe and all these, trying to find the next one of those directors.
Right.
And Araki made hyper-violent, super gay, almost porn, like Bret Easton Ellis, but way gayer and more violent.
Yeah.
But the same level of like nihilism and just dead soul.
Yeah.
And it never worked for me, both because the late 90s were really
I was like, you're really selling this right now.
I mean, like in the late 90s, it was like way past bleeding edge of gayness for me to accept and just weirdness. He was a director that I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm glad you're out there, but I don't want to watch this movie again, even though it has actors I like. He's worked with tons of people.
24 years later, he's nowhere near the edge.
That's the problem. Now it feels like I am trying to get my friends to watch Southland Tales again, because this is an L.A. douchebags caught in the middle of a like very mundane L.A. douchebags caught in the middle of what appears to be a very real, very tripped out science apocalypse.
Yeah, and the weird thing is,
it's really going to happen.
Like the weird thing is, it takes like I got 3 episodes in, and the closest I got to any nod to the apocalypse is one of them's having trips where he sees lizard people. And one of them is dating a girl who works at some kind of crazy science lab.
Yes.
And she might be a robot.
And, like, you get the feeling that, like, this is the kind of show where their science lab really is working on something that's going to end the world. Like, similar to Southland Tales, they really are slowing the planet down, and it really is creating a rip in space-time. But similar to Southland Tales, no one's going to put up with, like, it's too
But also,
weird.
it feels like, and this is one of the things that Starz has done from the outset, and I know I keep bagging on Starz, and that's because they're a pretty shitty network, but they, like, their bread and butter has been blood and boobs. I mean, everyone accuses HBO of that.
No, but Spartacus, man.
Yeah, but Spartacus, was it Black Sails is theirs? Is that theirs? Like, all their stuff, it's like, hey, we're doing a pirate thing. Hey, we're doing a Roman thing. But the key thing is that there's going to be a lot of blood and there's going to be a lot of boobs and fucking.
Yeah.
And this is that. There's like, the internet has plenty of porn for me. If I want to watch actual porn, I can watch porn. This like watching a bunch of characters I don't care for have sex is not interesting.
I never need Skinamax again.
Yeah.
There's real porn out there. Yeah. For me, a few years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago, MTV did I Just Want My Pants Back for one season. This feels about like that show.
Yeah.
Like this feels so far off the bleeding edge now.
Yeah.
Like 2 male characters giving each other a hand job because they're trying to lay off hookups is funny, but it's not edgy.
Yeah, I don't know if this was the second or third episode where the girlfriend brings a polyamorous girl home to have sex with her boyfriend so she can watch.
But it's
and I'm
still
like,
not even nearly the edgiest poly story.
I know, and I'm just like, okay, look, there's like, if you want to give me like, I guess if you are embarrassed to watch porn, but you want something titillating, I guess in that narrow sliver, Now Apocalypse is for you. But it's just kind of. It doesn't feel, like you say, it doesn't feel edgy for this time of year. It feels this decade. It feels like your dad is like, this is pretty sexy stuff, son. Let me show you this VHS.
Also, the lizard people that turn up in his nightmares, they really do look like a shitty lizard person head.
Yes.
On just that somebody put like a costume shop head. Like somebody has a football mascot costume. They just put the head on and went to town on somebody.
And I think that's by design. I think it's supposed to look weird.
It's supposed to look weird, but
yeah, it's
not.
It wants to be John dies at the end, but it's not.
Yes, but I just don't care enough. Like we were talking earlier, there's a moment in the first episode where they're in the middle of showing there's a lot of simultaneous sex scenes of like people in different areas and kind of orgasming together, and then something trippy happening like in the sky that no one notices because they're busy.
Right.
And that happens 2 or 3 times, but one of them early on, they're showing all these sex scenes, like one sex scene after another, and then they like smash cut to the main character in a big yawn, and it's played for comic effect.
Yeah.
But it really didn't strike me as funny because it's dead on true. I felt completely cold inside watching like 3 or 4 minutes of just straight up sex scenes where I was sitting there going, this is weird. I know that this is porn because I'm not that's the difference in porn and art. This is not an artsy sex scene because I feel dead inside watching you people have sex.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the definition of porn.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like a menage a montage.
Yeah, well,
I've been waiting like 10 minutes to say that.
Off mic, Les, you talked about Sense8.
Yeah.
Sense8 has some of the most beautiful, sensuous, engaging sex scenes because they bother to invest this in the characters.
Yeah.
Now Apocalypse never did the work.
No. And then even inside the narrative of the show, they are aware of it and they point it out that like we're bored by this.
Yeah.
And I get that they're trying to show a character who is also bored by hookup culture, but it doesn't come across as that. It comes across as bored with our own show.
Yeah, and I am also bored with their show.
I am also bored with your own show.
You know how I feel about sex and TV? It kind of takes away from the TV for me. Like one of my favorite shows right now, Les, thank you, Magicians. Fucking love Magicians.
Yeah.
But this show...
But you don't love magicians fucking?
No, because they fuck too much. The magicians, they got to be too sexy. They got to always be like giving each other a hand job or something.
There's always got to be like a will they, won't they.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get to the good shit. Like, can't you guys fuck later on your own time? Like, we want to
deal with
stories.
the fairy problem or deal with the whatever. Yeah.
That actually is a pretty good transition to our final show of the week, which is Love, Death, and Robots over on Netflix. This is David Fincher. Tim Miller is the other guy. The guy who did Deadpool. This was they pitched this as a like heavy metal reboot. It didn't go, and Netflix picked it up and turned it into Love, Death, and Robots. And I feel like there's 18 shorts of varying length, varying styles. And I do feel like one of the problems I have with this, one of the problems I've seen friends have with, is that the sex, as in heavy metal, it feels adolescent. It doesn't feel like it belongs in here.
So I only watched a couple of these. I really don't like CGI animation unless it is
definitely
done in
not for you.
A very particular way.
Yeah.
Like I realize all of Futurama's backgrounds and stuff were CG. There's a cell shading flattening. I don't know. There's a style look I don't care for. The ones that look like video game cutscenes are lost on me. So a lot of these just... Every ad I saw for Love, Death, and Robots, I didn't care. I also don't care for anime. This was like a really sweet spot marriage between two cartoon things I don't like.
It's a poo-poo platter of things Les hates.
That said, I watched the one about defending against Dracula with cats.
Yeah, that was episode. It was on Wikipedia. It's episode 5, Sucker of Souls. Although apparently this runs in different order for different people. Did you hear about this?
No.
There were people who were claiming, and I don't know if this was ever debunked or anything, but they basically were saying, like, if you watch a bunch of LGBT content, that they front loaded the stuff that had LGBT stuff in it. Like they sort of profiled you and showed you Love, Death, and Robots in different order. And I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know.
Since they don't seem, the ones I watch don't seem to stack up or connect.
Yeah.
Which infuriates me on 10-minute shorts.
Oh.
I could see them doing that, and that'd be kind of smart because there's too many of them, and the first one that started playing was the worst animation style for me. And I was done from the like. If I hadn't gone back because of our podcast, I wouldn't have gone back to rewatch any of these.
So was the first one you watched the one with Sunny's Edge?
Yes.
Was that the one? Okay.
It kept trying to show me that
same
one.
first one for me too. Okay.
Which I thought, again, I don't like the video game cutscenes, but that story like really worked for me. I found it kind of interesting, kind of like a more badass Real Steel.
It all still looks like Reboot from the 90s to me.
I thought
it doesn't look that bad.
I loved almost all the looks of this. I thought the animation I thought was beautiful. I'm not an anime fan in general, but I do always respect like the look of it. And I thought the various styles here, like I thought there was a ton of really beautiful looking stuff, but I found a lot of the stories kind of empty. And Sunny's Edge was the first one I watched too. And it's funny because I watched it and I'm like, I don't know if I like this. It's a little exploitative. It's a little rapey. It's a little overly violent.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get it out of my head. Like I kept thinking about it. I'm like, okay, must have done something to stick with me because I'm like the story kind of stuck with me a little bit. And so as I kept watching, I was like, you know what? Even the ones I didn't love, and there's definitely ones I didn't love, there was something in them that I liked. So overall, I would call this a success for me. I didn't love it. It's not going to make my best of this year, I don't think, but. I kind of respect a bunch of self-contained animated things you could like throw on and show whenever you want to watch something.
Well, and something you said earlier, which I've been going back and forth on since we've been talking about it, is you felt that more of them missed than hit.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt the other way, but now I'm looking at the list and yeah, it's like every other one hit for me, or maybe like two. Yeah. And I think that they did it in a neat way where even if you got to a dud, like the one after it, they're so quick.
Yeah.
The one after it was kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
And the stories, what they gave me is kind of what the Twilight Zone, like old Twilight Zone does, where you just get kind of that little twist at the end to make you go, uh-huh. It really wasn't that. It was about this.
Even the ones I didn't like have every one of them has something I liked about it. Every one of them had something interesting, whether it's a visual moment or a character or a setup where I was like, oh, I see why you would do this. My particular favorites, and I'd be curious to hear what your favorites were, Kyle. I know we both like Lucky 13.
Yeah, Lucky 13 was real good.
Basically stars Samira Wiley. Like, it is her.
That was pretty wild.
It is her. Like, they made it look like her. And it is about an unlucky dropship and a bunch of combat missions. And I thought that was really good. I thought that was really interesting. It was a sci-fi riff on a usual like fighter pilot story. It was really beautiful. I really liked that one.
Yeah, it definitely had kind of that like video game look, but it just kind of took it to the next level. And most of the action was the ship in air.
Yeah,
and that comes off way easier in that kind of animation style.
For sure. What was one of your favorites?
Well, we've talked about it a few times. The Suits.
Suits was so good. It's definitely my favorites.
Yeah, it made me cringe when it first came on, and you see the dump. It's like you can smell it. Like the room got humid. Like I felt like I was in that world. And when you got to the end of it, it was really cute.
You're talking about the farming mechs one, right?
Yeah. Oh wait, never mind.
No, you're talking about the one at the dump.
I'm talking about the one at the dump.
You're talking about the dump is what it's called.
That's right. It is called the dump.
I wasn't crazy about that one.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was okay. The one I liked was Suits was the farming mechs. Like it's all these farmers and they have like the mechs defending against like
the animals and the insects
aliens
or whatever.
The aliens that are coming in.
Okay, that one was badass.
That was pretty great. And what like in the short time they had, they built up the characters, they built up the relationships, and then the last thing we pan over and we see what's going on was a nice little twist. It's like didn't upend everything. I was like, oh, okay, they're on an alien world, cool.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was one of their better ones.
I also really like the animation style.
Yeah.
I felt like that kind of moved more towards like the Pixar type style.
Yeah, for sure.
And the one of those, like I felt the dump one kind of did a little bit of that too. And I tend to enjoy the more stylized ones. There was a few of these that were super heady and kind of trippy. And the one that I really dug that I would not be surprised if you didn't, but Zima Blue.
I liked Zima Blue, but I wasn't in love with it. I love that artist, the guy who created Robert Valley, did an amazing 60s Wonder Woman thing for DC Shorts.
Yeah,
where she was
did
like,
that?
yeah,
all right, I'll go back and watch that one.
that one, and it has that look, and it's spectacular.
Okay,
yeah.
No, the story, it's definitely like, what the hell is going on? And then when you get to the end of it, you're like, all right.
Yeah.
That was all just kind of.
It was weird and trippy, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is so pretty.
For me, I keep trying. I'm still picking through these just to look for ones that aren't video game cutscene style, because the animation style.
Oh,
really
I can give you a list.
really makes or breaks it for me. The two that I watched, or that I found that I stopped on and went, yes, okay, are the Sucker of Souls one, which looks like John Arcudi's BPRD.
Yeah,
I don't think it's him, but it has that comic style to it. But I had the exact same problem you had with the ones you watched, Randy. It was just like bad mercenary trope, fuck shit, fuck, bad mercenary trope, fuck.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay, are we 8? Like, I'm noticing you swearing. You are swearing a lot.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that too. I will say, Les, there's a couple I would definitely point you to. One of his, this wasn't even one of my favorites, but it's just interesting, is Ice Age. That's Tim Miller's.
Okay.
And it's the one that's sort of live action. It's got Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Topher Grace as a couple who move into an apartment, and their old fridge has like a civilization inside of it. And the animation is the civilization like changing. So like they'll close the fridge and there's a thermonuclear event and the civilization has wiped itself out. And then they'll open it back again, and it's like this futuristic society that's building in there. And it reminded me of everything, of all things, of the Simpsons episode, where Lisa like creates a civilization. But Winstead and Grace are hilarious and funny. And John DiMaggio does some of the voices. Like,
that's great.
It's really fun.
The other one I watched that worked for me because of the Pixar-ish kind of style was the Yogurt one, which Maurice LaMarche narrates the whole thing.
Yeah,
but it kind of encapsulated my problem with the ones that I started to watch. Same with the Sucker of Souls. In the 10 or 12 minutes that these things run, they don't establish and stand alone for me.
Right.
They start a story and then it stops. Like I had to rewatch the Sucker of Souls one because I didn't understand. Like I looked away and the credits rolled.
Yeah.
And I looked back and was like, we're in a different one. What happened? Where did this end? And it ends on a cool cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But I don't know who these people are, and all I've done is watch mercenaries run down a tunnel and swear. I mean, it's like I watched 5 minutes from the middle of Doom.
Yeah. I will say, if you like the Yogurt one, the alternate histories.
Yeah. But
that
one, the Yogurt one's all narration too.
Yeah.
Like it again. You told me about a cool idea you had.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me you didn't actually show me a cool idea.
Yeah.
You told me about a cool idea you had.
Yeah, and I think alternate histories is a similar one. I really enjoyed it, but it's basically hey, this is a multiversity app which lets you look at other alternate universes, and here are 6 different ways in which Hitler dies, and it's fun and it's goofy, but it feels ephemeral.
And it's what keeps this from rising to. Based on the title cards, I kind of got the vibe that they wanted this to be like, what would an animated heavy metal be? It would be animated Black Mirror now.
Oh, yeah.
I got the same vibe.
I feel like they want this to be animated Black Mirror with the little title card rolling the symbols.
And instead it's what would heavy metal be if we made it a few years later.
That was the first thing I Googled was Black Mirror creators have anything to do with Love, Death, and Robots.
I would say anybody digging this should go look up a British series from 10 years ago called Monkey Dust.
Okay.
Monkey Dust is fucked up. But if you want a closer to like a dark Black Mirror animated show, I liked Monkey Dust better than this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's just because there's a style problem with some of the CG. So I will be hitting Kyle up for a list of.
I have a weird recommendation based off of this.
Yeah.
What was that Batman anime that came out?
Which one? Ninja? Or Bad Blood? Or
You talking about the one that came out that was tied in the Dark Knight?
The anthology one. I think
Gotham
so, yeah.
Knights?
Yeah, Gotham Knights, yeah.
That had like the 3 or 4 different ones. Like one of them was Street Angel style. Like
Yeah.
Maybe because that was the last time I watched any like anime-ish type thing. But I definitely was thinking about that and how much I really enjoyed watching that.
Now it's making me think of all those weird X-Men anime.
What?
Randy, have you not seen
they're
those?
bizarre.
They
It's
are
weird.
barely licensed. Like they are so weird.
Nice.
Super skinny Wolverine. It's so weird.
Kyle, closing thoughts on Love, Death, and Robots? Any other favorites?
Oh yeah. What was the one with the werewolf Afghanistan?
Oh yeah,
guys?
that one is called. I'm looking at it's. Wow, that's further up than I thought. Oh, Shapeshifters.
Shapeshifters. Yeah, this is pretty badass. I also think a huge thing for me is I love seeing characters barefoot in movies and film. I mean, it's like ever since. No, not like that. Really, it's Die Hard. Like ever since Die Hard, I'm always like, how did they
vulnerable.
get barefoot? You know, like what's the story there?
Right,
yeah. No, like that's how they start this one, and then you find out that these barefoot gentlemen have some heightened abilities.
Yeah.
And then it just goes from there. And that one was a lot
There was
of fun.
some fun world building in that one. I thought it didn't pay off as well as I would have liked, but there's some interesting world building up to it.
Yeah, I give you that. But it definitely, it only takes you like 2 seconds, and I felt like I was back in the Hurt Locker or like Jack Ryan.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like all these there's a good and a bad in the fact that it's all short, which means that sometimes maybe you're not going to get a big payoff, but it also means that if you're not feeling one, there's another one coming along in a couple minutes. Yeah. All right, so let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and take a listener question. And we're back with those listener questions. Every few weeks, I put up a question post on Facebook, and I'm still working on the platform, exactly how to get that out to you guys so we get a lot of questions.
We should put that post out every week and just bank the questions.
That's a good idea.
Lie to our listeners, be like, hey, we're recording, y'all. Got any questions?
I may start putting more than one out. Maybe we'll each write one, and then we'll see which ones gets the most questions.
Yeah.
So we had only a few questions this week. We got to spread out across 2 shows. We're just going to do one question with each show. This week's question comes to us from Mr. Mickey Moadi, I think is how you pronounce it. Mickey
I'm going to leave
Moadi.
you out to dry on that one.
It's Mike Moody. I'm sorry, it's Mike Moody. And he says, y'all watch any of the 748 seasons of Supernatural? I'm on season 563, and I think I'm starting to like it.
I am fully caught up on Supernatural, which I hold out as my test Kobayashi Maru for writers' rooms. So you think you can write a genre show? Here is Supernatural. Make a new episode.
Oh man,
and you got to try.
So, how is Supernatural at season 14? I mean, I know they did Scooby-Doo. Was that this season?
Incredibly self-contained. It was actually, yes, that was this season, I believe.
Okay, all right.
It's incredibly self-contained and mythology dense at this point. The Monsters of the Week, they still do them, but they're purposely as distractions from whatever, total shit show is happening to them at the moment. We got to go out and just kill a vampire. You know what I could stand? Just to kill a regular vampire. They go out and do that. But yeah, I'm still digging it. It's at some point around season 5 or so, they decided to just lean straight into Christianity being a mythology.
Well, season 5 is where it was supposed to end.
Supposed to have ended.
And that's where it ended for me.
Yeah.
I never watched past it.
And Sarah Gamble took it over, and who showruns The Magicians, and she's awesome. But she took it over, and then they ran it for a few more years. I don't believe she is showrunning it directly anymore. I'm really amazed they're ending it, and I bet they spin it off, or honestly, I think I said this to somebody on Facebook, I bet we have less than 5 years before Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles throw their own money down to reboot this with a different set of brothers.
I don't know. I feel like those guys might be like them and Misha Collins. They might all be like, you know what? We're trapped. We would like to do something besides this.
I could see them never acting in it again. Just throwing the money down
to put it down.
Just producing it. I could see them 3 being the producers on a reboot in a handful of years.
Because they did. For those who don't know, they did just announce season 15 will be the final season of Supernatural.
I can't believe it's really actually going to end.
And they made from their brewery here in Austin, they made a very heartfelt and very sweet video for the fans about they were closing it down and they wanted to thank everybody and that kind of thing. Which I think. One of the things I've loved about Supernatural is the fandom. I have friends who they've gone to the conventions and they've taken pictures with them, and these guys do seem to absolutely love their fans.
Yes, the show has fallen into a lot of bad tropes in terms of its writing. They have fridged a lot of female characters. Yeah. They have had terrible luck spinning off shows. Yeah. The fandom seems to very much be about the Winchester boys and not the larger world, which I find super interesting.
Right.
And I've always been kind of infuriated why Supernatural hasn't been able to birth something besides the Winchester boys.
Right.
That's why I could see a reboot happening better than a spinoff.
Yeah.
That said, they could reboot this thing, make a couple of different choices in season 3 or 4, and go a whole. I mean, the setup is infinitely fertile.
Yeah.
You have a world where all monsters are real. And you can even have fun running gags. Every once in a while, they run into something where they go, "Oh no, not unicorns. Those aren't real." And then a unicorn runs across. And every hunter in the room goes, "Oh, shit, really?
Yeah.
And, like,
well, and it feels like it feels like the spiritual successor to Buffy in some ways.
yeah, it very much took over like an Angel Buffy kind of. Let's have fun with this.
Also, they did some things where like one of their villains in early on was Loki, and he turned out to be an angel.
Yeah, basically, yeah, they have a trickster god that turns out, that they pull a sleight of hand on. He's an angel that's hiding out.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of just really wild stuff with purgatory and Christian mythology and the way their vampires work. They've gotten like to a spike level of having to deal with some of these people because some of these. Yeah. They've also kind of dealt with the fact that like if you're looking in terms of highest death count on the planet, like the Winchester boys are monsters. Like they've killed more critters than like anybody. Like at some point, like they've done some kind of flipped POV-ish kind of things where you realize that all the monsters think of them as like this horrifying story you tell your kids.
Yeah. Well, should people?
And they've almost ruined every time they've saved the world. Like if they've saved the world 5 times, 4 of those were directly caused by them. Like one of the brothers dies and the other one or goes to hell or something, and the other brother just can't stand it and saves them, which breaks the world. And then like half the time the apocalypse they are trying to stop is entirely their fault. And celestial beings point it out to them all the time.
Les, do you think someone should start off with this? Should people just jump in on season 15?
Yes, I would just start from
that is something I would do. I've never watched it.
Less traveled at the start, and it'll make no sense. Like you can't do 14 years in a 1-minute montage, but you should try. It's fun.
I'm definitely not going to jump back in and watch the last 10 seasons I haven't seen.
I would just make up the final episode, honestly.
Yeah.
It'll all make sense.
Weird observation. 2 shows where I think you can jump in at the last season and still be like, this is a badass show.
Yeah.
Easy answer, Breaking Bad.
Sure.
But the other one, Sopranos.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
last season's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a love letter to the whole series.
Yeah.
And they kind of hit all the same beats and stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. So if you guys want to support us, as always, you can go over to patreon.com/tvdudes and throw us $1 an episode.
I've done it.
Yeah, it's great. Maybe make up a fake name, pretend you're not somebody else, ask us to do a Patreon episode for his favorite show, if you want to go that way.
It's an option.
But throw us $1 an episode. It helps us keep the studio running and electricity and keeps us all in our cocaine wine.
Yeah, because now our sweaters have to be electrified. So we need more electricity for the electric sweater.
We are part of the Electric Sweater Network.
Electric sweater.
And you can catch all kinds of TV theme shows over at Electric Sweater. You can catch FemTV, Star Trek Discovery Pod.
This is us.
Key and Clyde's renamed pilot watching show. I think it's Watching with Key and Clyde now.
I think so.
Also, just with patrons, we do have a new patron this week. Doggett joins us. Thank you, Doggett. We appreciate your support.
Indeed.
And that's going to do it for us this week. And until next time,
TV Dudes out!
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.